Welcome back to my Writer's Room, everyone. I am Matt Wallace, YouTube's resident angry writer, and thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to come hang out with me here in my lonely, angry little writerly sanctum. I always appreciate it. I really do. Me not being naked on the vlog is brought to you, as always, by our t-shirt of the day, which today I've got my Heels and Faces Going Places t-shirt, repping the Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. And I got this shirt out of the monthly Wrestle Crate that Marty and Sarah guest curated one month. So, and you can see me unbox those over on my wrestling channel, Matt F. and Wallace, if you're into that kind of thing. It is January 12th, 2018. It is Friday. You've made it. You've made it to the end of the week. Congratulations. Another short-term victory won in the battle against this thing we call life. As you can see, Hamshackle Pig is literally standing on the outside looking in. These are all the cool pigs over here, and this is supposed to be like the force field he imagines is separating them and shrouding them in divine light. This exists only in Hamshackle Pig's head. So yeah, and we'll get to that in a second here. So as I said, congratulations on making it to the end of the week. Always worth being proud of in this day and age. So it's Friday, and as you know, if you follow along with the vlog that we do here, on Friday we like to end the week with a question. And I have one. One occurred to me after the events of yesterday, which involved some SFF community drama on the social medias, and I may talk about that more specifically and in depth, like on Monday, if I really feel like kicking up some drama dust. Kicking up some drama dust. I just came up with that in my head and I was really amused by it. Anyway, so I might talk more about that, but I don't want to do it today. Just mostly I'm tired. It was my first full week at the new job and I'm tired. So I wanted to talk about something what the specific incident that happened got me thinking about it. Got me thinking about this question. And the question is, why do we assign social value to people, and more specifically groups of people, who in reality don't really matter to us one way or another? And I feel like this is a common thing that all people tend to do in all social, professional situations. Whether you are a member of the genre fiction community, which is a very specific niche, whether you go work in a bank every day and you deal with the inter-office bank politics, whether you go to a construction site every day and you deal with the hierarchy there. I always tend to, and for some reason, I always tend to know the people, whichever kind of situation they're in, who find themselves on the outside looking in. You know, they find themselves outside of the nucleus of people who have attained the most social capital by banding together and excluding everyone else. And I mean, I guess that makes sense because that's always been me throughout my life. I've always been, the prototypical loner. At least I was in school and I was when I was a kid. I've done better in my older age. My wife has helped me with that. She's helped me be less closed off in social situations. And the thing is, I'm good in social situations when I want to be. I can actually be quite charming. She has assured me of this. But I mean, I must have game. I got her, and that was not easy. She was not an easy get, my wife. But anyway. So I'm doing better with that in my older age, but I still understand that impulse, and I still see that played out in so many people in so many situations as an author and as an author of genre fiction, of science fiction and fantasy, because the whole community is rife with that, and community is really the key there. Because people have this thing that we tend to do wherever you put us, whatever situation you put us in. We tend to form communities around whatever we're doing and wherever we are. It's the impulse that literally started modern civilization and modern society. And creating communities is not a bad concept. It's not a bad idea. As I said, no communities, no civilization, no modern society. The problem with a really good concept, not unlike America as a concept, is it's a great concept, and then a bunch of people got involved, and people could fuck up a cup of coffee. We're terrible at doing things. That's really the problem. People, especially in groups, are terrible at doing things. We are petty, horrible people who give in to our lesser angels 9 times a day, and we will fuck up anything that you hand us, no matter how good a concept it is, if you get enough of us in a group together. And community is one of those things. It's why I really avoid community in everything that I do, whether it's the entertainment industry, whether it's publishing, whether it's YouTube and this vlog here. I'm not interested in being part of a community. I'm just not. I much prefer the idea of close friends you have that also do what you do or support what you do, and then, you know, peers that you respect and are happy to collaborate with as needed or promote as needed. I consider myself a freelancer within these communities. And it's a good way to be because it detaches you from all the bullshit. Because that's the problem. So often the supportive and important aspects of a community are outweighed by all the toxic bullshit and baggage that people bring with them. And which brings me back to the original question of, why do we assign such value to them? Because that's what gives them their power. That's what gives all the toxic bullshit and all the nucleus of cool kids who exclude everyone else their power. Is we assign social currency to them. We think their bank account is overflowing with social currency, when really it's not. And I began, and that realization is really the important thing. It's a realization not enough of us come to, how absolutely meaningless that nucleus that we feel outside of really is. There's a scene in a William Goldman novel that's always stuck with me. It's not a particularly good novel. It's not one of his best. I am a William Goldman fan, and I will say that. It was called Control, I believe. Control by William Goldman. Anyway, so one of the big threads of the plot of the book hinged around the fact that at some point in the past, a husband had come home and found his wife in bed, his younger, much younger wife in bed, with like her, I think it was her poetry teacher. It was like Victorian times or something. And the husband had, in a rage, he had murdered them both. Very old cliche thing. Husband comes home, finds them in bed, kills them both. Sadly, a cliche thing. I mean, it's horrible when it actually happens. But in this book, that was the thrust of the plot. And by the end of the book, you heard about the scene, but you hadn't seen it. You had heard it referenced. So at the end of the book, like some quasi-time travel is involved. But at the end of the book, you get to see that scene play out. The only thing is, history has changed and that doesn't happen. And when you watch the scene play out, the husband discovers the wife and the poetry teacher in the bedroom getting ready to do their thing. He's enraged. He goes into a trance of madness or whatever you want to call it. Goes and gets the gun, comes back up to shoot them both. And then he stops and he actually processes what he's seen in front of him. And he starts to not see the idealized version of that scene. He actually starts to notice the details. It's like, his wife went through a very, very difficult pregnancy a few years before, and she's scarred from it. And the kid that she's seducing is this young, naive guy who plagiarizes poetry and pretends it's his. And all this stuff starts to hit him, the imperfections of it. And instead of being pissed off about it, he starts to see the scene as just a really sad, pathetic scene. These two people clinging to each other who have nothing else in life. And I'm not even saying I agree with his perspective. You can certainly pick that apart in many different ways. But the point is, his perception of these people and of their coupling and what that means to him, it just completely changes. Like the veil of fantasy comes away, the idealized veil comes away. He sees the scene for what it is, and he's horrified by what he was about to do. He's like, I cannot believe that I was about to kill two people over what is ultimately he sees it as a sad act that he's detached from. He can't believe he would ruin his life and take their lives over it, and he's horrified because his perception changes. And again, it's not a particularly well-written scene. It's a very problematic scene in a lot of ways, but for some reason, it always stuck with me because of that drastic shift in perception that character experiences. I always found that so stark, and I always found that really relevant. That idea of how we idealize and fantasize things in life, and how if we actually take a minute and stop and peer through that veil and see the reality of it, you start to see the flaws in what you thought was something that was so idealized, and your whole perception of it can flip. It was just that part of the scene was really well described and so stark, and that always stuck with me. And it's something that I think about and I remember when I look at things like our perception of community and who are the cool people in that community, and how we aren't part of that because we're not cool or we're not included. And I think 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, if you really just stopped and looked at it from a different angle, you would see all the deep flaws and cracks and crags in that situation that you were idealizing. Especially in a thing like the SFF community, where, to be perfectly honest, we are all tiny little fish in a tiny little muddy pond. We really are, man. There are people doing great work, and there are great people there, but particularly the folks that we elevate in this community, the folks we see as just blindingly successful. Again, they're the ones who've managed to float to the top of this very shallow, muddy pond filled with small fish that outside of this pond no one gives a shit about. And really, you should be aspiring beyond the muddy pond. And your idealizing of the community and of the people at the top of that community keep you in it. It really does. As professional working writers, as people aspiring to have the best career possible as writers, we should always, and even if you love SFF and you are committed to writing SFF, you should always be looking beyond the pond of SFF, folks. You always should be to bigger opportunities, other mediums, other industries that you can adapt your work to and have more success in. You should always be looking beyond the pond. And you should leave the people ruling the pond behind in the pond. Like, they don't matter ultimately. And it's a very freeing realization when you finally had it. I had it several years ago when I got back into publishing after a long absence. I was very obsessed when I came back into publishing and started getting deals and started getting stories out there again about assessing the scene. Like, I'm trying to get back into the SFF scene. Like, who are the players? Who are the people that I should know and that I should be following and that I should be friends with? Just these absurd ideas of social and professional and communal hierarchy that just don't make any difference. And the deeper I got into that, going to cons and being on Twitter and being part of this community and like seeing kind of, there's sort of like a bro club that exists out there of popular SFF guys, and I'm sure you know many of them. And like the more I investigated that scene and saw it operate and function at cons, the more I realized I wanted nothing to do with that. Because while I'm not saying any of these people are bad people, and they all tend to, ascribe to very progressive ideology, they help other people out, they do things, they also tend to be very exclusionary and insular in a lot of ways that I find kind of repellent. And ultimately, there's nothing there that's, if you think like being part of that is going to help advance you in some way, it's not. It's really not. There's nothing that anyone in this community can do for you that you can't do yourself and better if you stop worrying about the community and stop worrying about what everyone else is doing and just focus on your own game. It's always more important to focus on your own game because you are here in this community to create good work and have the best career possible. You're not here to go to a debutante ball and win a tiara. That's not what it should be about, even though that's what it ends up becoming about 9 times out of 10. And that's really... that's really where I come to when I ask myself that question. Why do we assign value to these things that intrinsically have no value from the perspective of us being outside of them, Now, I'm not saying that genuine connections and genuine friendships and genuine relationships, emotionally, psychologically, professionally, creatively beneficial relationships, don't exist within these communities and aren't worth pursuing. I'm just saying... focus on the people that you connect with and actually like. Don't focus on who are the cool kids at the cool lunch table in the lunchroom of SFF or any other niche community, job, professional situation. Because that cool kids table is an illusion. It's exactly as full of shit as it was when you were in high school and there was an actual cool kids lunch table. Would you want to live the rest of your fucking life at that table knowing what you know now as an adult? Exactly. So apply that same perception to the communities that you are a part of and to the niches of that community that you feel excluded by or on the outside of. They don't matter ultimately. So yeah, that's where I come to on that. Those are my thoughts for today. That was the question I wanted to ask today, and that's the best answer I could come up with. I hope you found something worthwhile in that whole screed that I just did. Oh, and that's Friday, folks. Again, congrats on making it to the end of the week. I hope you're able to recharge this weekend, get enough humanity back to carry forward into next week. I will be back with you. Also, I'm going to be posting, if I have not already posted by the time this vlog goes live today, my video about the redrawing for the prize boxes that I gave away last month that went unclaimed. So check out that video. I'll put a link in the description of this video when that's ready to find out how you can enter and win boxes of swag and books and all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, in the meantime, I am Matt Wallace, and I will see y'all on Monday.